Hello, my name is Caroline Nettle, and this video is going to address the subject of hoarding and how it can really be very detrimental to living a free and happy life. Now, I'm doing this video because somebody on my page on Facebook asked me to do this, so thank you for that request. And my page is Spiritual Growth Tools on Facebook. So if there's a subject that you're really struggling with in your life, do let me know. And if I have anything I think worth saying, then I will do a video to address that issue. So why do people hoard? And sometimes to people on the outside looking in at the lives of those that hoard, it can be really confusing because sometimes people hoard things which to the average person in the street would be completely useless. For example, newspaper cuttings or empty bottles or whatever it is. Sometimes, of course, you have people who collect things that, you can understand, maybe plants or records or something like that. But to the hoarder, it's very much about this item that I'm finding helps me to feel good, and so I'm going to go out and find another one. And there is no real concept of the fact that I have 650 of these already and I need more to feel okay about myself. It's not necessarily even good. Underneath the behaviour, which is sometimes to those looking in quite bizarre, but underneath the behaviour of a hoarder is usually some deep emotional issue. And this can be trauma related, something that's happened that they're just unable to deal with. So they express their inability to deal with it by hoarding. There's also loneliness can be a factor to those that hoard. And also anxiety and depression. Those are two other conditions that very often people with compulsive hoarding tendencies tend to have. They can also be OCD and ADHD and things like that. The condition of hoarding is the symptom, and what's underlying are very, very strong emotional issues. And a story that I heard firsthand from a lady that I met when I was in the US one time, she had hoarded so much that her house was no longer somewhere she could move around in. So her and her husband bought the house next door to move into, because that way they could move around. And when I asked her, well, what is it that you're hoarding? She's like, newspaper cuttings, newspapers, magazine articles. So to an outsider, that behaviour is slightly bonkers. It's almost insanity to just keep so many newspaper cuttings. But to the person who's suffering with the disorder, it makes her feel safe or comfortable or whatever it is, but it's so important because when I suggested that, maybe you could just throw one away a week or something like that, the extreme reaction that I witnessed in this lady was overwhelming. I mean, it was huge, and that's when I knew that I didn't really understand the condition. So that's something that is a very, very extreme example, but generally hoarders are quite difficult to live with. Just normal people, not that I think there's any such thing as normal, but in general, people don't hoard so much that they just can't move around. But also one of the characteristics of hoarders is they give intense emotional value to whatever it is that they hoard. So in the case of this lady, we'd be looking at newspaper articles. And for her, because perhaps she was unable to deal with her own enormous emotions, she put emotional value in the newspaper cuttings and magazine articles. And the issue with that is then, of course, when I go to throw this away, to you and me it might look like a piece of paper, but to her it's got massive significance, emotional significance. The best way to start on the road to recovery from hoarding is to acknowledge that there may be a problem. And I think this often can be very difficult, especially if I'm grieving the loss of my husband and my hoarding is a symptom of that grief, and I'm not ready to address the loss of my parent, husband, pet, whatever it was that I am manifesting as hoarding, but it's actually this deep grief that I'm feeling inside. So accepting that there may be a problem, and then going to ask for help and trying to find help with people who are qualified to help you. And by that I mean, it's all very well talking to your husband, for example, if you're a woman, but he may not have the understanding that you need to treat the enormous underlying issues, especially when they're emotional, often traumatized feelings. And for someone to manifest as a hoarder, quite often that is the expression of some quite deep emotions. So you need to be sure that when you're seeking help, you are seeking professional help. And then with the professional help, finding ways of letting go of the items that you have given all this worth to. So again, that's not something you want to start straight away. That's something that you want to go through some, let's say, some talk therapy or some emotional therapy or whatever it is that you need to do to get to a place where you can appreciate that perhaps this piece of paper doesn't represent to you the loss of your favourite pet or your husband or whatever it was that you are grieving. So there are lots of different ways of asking for help, and certainly if you go onto my website spiritualgrowthtools.co.uk and look at Healing with Body Talk, you'll find that helping to balance emotional issues is one of the things that I can certainly offer in this instance. But there are many, many different and varied ways for you to get the help that you need. So hoarding is a very serious manifestation of generally some fairly large emotions underneath, which are either unexpressed or repressed. And I think obviously healing needs to come in a way of great understanding of the person and empathy for the way that they've manifested this behavior, because clearly they need help moving forward. So I hope that's helpful. As I say, this was suggested to me by someone on my Facebook page. So do go on to Spiritual Growth Tools on Facebook. And if you have any thoughts about videos that you would like me to make, then please go ahead and send me a message. So I hope that's helpful. I hope you find the help that you need. And please share this with anyone you think it might be useful to. Thank you.